Flo is here with the papers. We're starting stateside for this bulletin. They're focusing on those mounting tensions, aren't they, between Republican candidate Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
That's right. The Washington Post sums it up.
Pun.
Right, the Washington pun. It might be a pun. It says that Donald Trump has declared war on the GOP, the Republican Party. Now, yesterday, in a series of tweets, Trump started attacking members of his own party. Now, this comes after several top Republicans decided to rescind on their support of Donald Trump, and among them, some pretty big fish. You have the House Speaker Paul Ryan, for instance. Now, a lot of this has to do with that video that emerged a couple of days ago where you can hear Trump bragging about allegedly assaulting some women. This seems to have been the, final push to essentially make these Republicans not want to support him anymore. So here are some of the tweets that Donald Trump was shooting out. There were lots of them, so I had to make just a selection. "It's so nice to see that the shackles have been taken off me, and I can now fight for America, the way I want to." Now, he said that Democrats were more loyal than Republicans, so ouch. He also said that Hillary Clinton is easier to deal with than some Republicans. Maybe that was the worst thing.
It's a pretty unprecedented situation, this now, isn't it, Flo? I mean, 4 weeks to go before the election.
That's right. And the Daily Beast says that we're looking at a Frankenstein scenario here because, after all, the Republican Party made Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump is destroying the Republican Party. The Washington Post, if we go back to that paper, they have a good analysis as well, saying that Donald Trump is blowing up the Republican Party. Now, Republicans always knew that this version of Trump was a possibility: angry, vengeful, selfish. But they thought that maybe, just maybe, he could be managed, and maybe he would come to realize that it's more than about him. The whole Republican Party depends on him having a good campaign. Now it turns out that Trump is essentially turning the guns on his own troops. This might be personally satisfying to him, according to the Washington Post, but it could be a real disaster for the Republican Party.
Yeah, the papers really are saying it. This, as you say, it could be a real disaster, this, couldn't it?
That's right. Now, especially because we have the presidential election, but there are also the congressional elections that are coming up, and there could be some long-term damage for the Republican Party. Now, on top of the whole identity crisis that the Republican Party is going through, the lack of unity, there could be this short-term damage in the upcoming congressional election. For instance, according to this editorial in the Wall Street Journal, the chances of the Republican Party holding on to the Senate and possibly even its majority in the House, that could be jeopardized in this election, which is practically unheard of and pretty crazy given the fact that they've had such a majority for such a long time. And this article says that individual Republicans should have the freedom to do whatever it takes to hold on to their seats. Now, Donald Trump may say this is a betrayal, but maybe once upon a time he would have realized that it's just business.
Okay, gear change time now. Something completely different. Germany. Papers paying tribute to Syrian refugees who led police to another Syrian refugee. This was the man that they spent all weekend looking for, isn't it, with suspected links to the Islamic State group who was allegedly planning an attack.
That's right. There's a good summary of the media reactions that are happening in Germany in Le Monde, the French paper. Now, this arrest took place in Leipzig on Monday, thanks to these other Syrian refugees who tied the suspect up, tipped the police off, and essentially helped foil an imminent attack. Le Monde says that the suspect, for instance, was perhaps planning to attack the Berlin airport. Now, German papers are really unanimous about these Syrians that tipped off the police. They're calling them heroes. This is the front page of yesterday's BZ. That's a tabloid. And it's really interesting. What you can see here, first of all, is the suspect tied up. And you can see here it says, "Thank you, FEK." Now, that's a little bit of they're playing on words. It's not the SEK, that is the Special Command Forces, I guess you could say. They've kind of invented the Migrant Commando, the FEK, that helped stop this suspect. Now, it must be said, other German papers were a little bit more ironic, and they said, surprise, surprise, there are some good Syrian refugees, kind of to, I guess, put in light the cliche that a lot of people have been putting out in Germany, that they're only bad Syrian refugees that are there to destroy the country. A lot of papers are saying, no, the majority of Syrian refugees actually just want a peaceful life, and they're willing to save the country as well.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that picture, isn't it? Let's move on to the situation in Venezuela. Today, the opposition is organising a day of action against the President Nicolas Maduro.
That's right. Let's take a look at El Universal. That's an opposition paper their editorial today is pointing out that the population is fed up with shortages of just about everything. Every day is a fight to survive. Feeding yourself and being able to take care of your health are basic human rights, according to El Universal, and it really lashes out against the Maduro government for essentially preferring to buy everything, to import everything, instead of producing things. And the editorial says, the government controls 80% of the production of coffee, 50% of the production of cornmeal, 50% of the production of milk, and yet nothing is done to ensure that everyday Venezuelans can get the basic products they need. Now, the situation in Venezuela has been getting a lot of attention around the world. There's several really interesting, in-depth investigations I recommend. First of all, this one in The Guardian. You can see they're talking about Venezuela on the brink, a journey through a country in chaos. The oil-rich South American nation should be prospering. Instead, it stands on the edge of an economic and humanitarian abyss. Well, you can see this photo of a queue here. That's something that gets a lot of attention. And another interesting report, this is actually in Radio Canada on their website. You can see here they have a very interesting investigation. They talk about the slow descent into hell in Venezuela, where queuing has become a way of life.
Okay. Well, we will bring you the very latest news in a few moments' time. Thanks to Flo, thanks to Delano as well. Plus, in the next half hour, a humane abattoir. Perhaps it's an oxymoron, but after a number of slaughterhouses here in France were named and shamed in recent months for acts of animal abuse, now comes change. We report on the abattoir aiming to be as kind as possible to animals.